Okay, for about the past since the last time I uploaded something, I have pretty much recorded every day, but haven't uploaded anything. Oh, they're doing some work out here. And, I just haven't. So, I just haven't. By the time I get home, at, where to upload and the desire, or actually, I sometimes, my lunchbox is heavy, I sometimes forget about it. So, well, not sometimes, I just do, and it doesn't, what I have said that day, I have gotten out. I don't need to say it, but my intent for doing this was for me later to kind of pick up where I was at, mindset and everything going on, because I've lost a lot of time in my life. And this was evident this past week, or this past couple weeks. So when I say I've lost a lot of time, I have difficulty putting events. I can put events in a timeline. I know that this, even little dumb things, I know this happened before this. I have zero problem with that. It is, what year? How old was I? I have no concept of age. My younger years, I really don't know the difference from something that I did when I was 11 to something that I did when I was 14. Other than the experience itself, there's no difference. I don't know if I was in 4th grade. I don't know if I was in 9th grade. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I worked one year when I was about, and I don't know if this is true, it may be 13, 14 years old. I worked for my grandfather's church. They were building it, and they were like self-contracting, and I thought it was just a thing then, but now looking back at it, it was a fucking scam, because it's a goddamn church. Churches are the biggest fucking scammers like ever. They scam their own people out of money. They scam their own people out of labor. And then they scam the government out of taxes. It's fucking... Anyway. So, I worked for like 2-3 weeks. When I say one summer I built, it wasn't like through one summer. It was the framing phase. We mostly did the roof, the trusses, and the sheeting. I did that. And it was weird. The dude that we were working with, I want to say his name was Danny. The guy who was kind of in charge. He wasn't in charge, but he was the head carpenter of the church. And then they hired a cat. I think his name was Danny. Can't remember. Skinny dude, just knew his way around a hammer. And the 2 weeks that I worked with him, I learned a lot. Just by watching him, and how graceful, and how everything just seemed to flow. I learned a lot in 2 weeks, and I processed that. But okay, getting back to just dumb things. So anyway, the reason why I do this is because I want to know what's going on, to be able to capture events can recall things correctly. So an example of that is my bow. I bought it apparently after some searching, looking, searching my own name on Archery Talk and trying to find out, because I remember talking about it and then getting linked up with the group of guys that were talking about it, and ultimately I bought my Razor X from a guy who had one built the exact same way that I wanted it, but he was changing his entire style. So I remember, well, I don't remember, but as soon as I saw his name, I remember his screen name was Hollow Point. Like, oh my God, that was, God, and it took me back like that. And reading what I had wrote and how I wrote, the style in which I wrote was pre-college. It was 15, 16, 17 years ago. I was just a dumb electrician shooting arrows. Been to Snowshoe Mountain twice. World Championship. World Championship. World Championship. I was not the best. And I certainly was not the worst in the world in my class, MCU, male compound unaided, which means compound bow, no sights, no release. They shoot us out to 40 yards. They put us on the green stakes. Green stakes, one stake before open class. Open, and then at the World Championship, dude, really? You need both lanes for that fucking Taurus. Whatever. So we shot my first. I can't remember. No, I guess I do have trouble putting things. So I made it to the finals, where basically you shoot 40 targets, then your best of 40, and then the top, whatever, 5, 6, top 10 in your class get together and shoot another course. Well, the course that they put us on for the finals is like an open, they just change stakes around. Anyway, I came in 6th place one year. And that was a weird year. I should have been, the highest that they usually place, or that they usually pay, is 5th place. That year, there were a lot of storms, and they called the event. So several years ago, they had a kid get hit by lightning, and so anytime that there's lightning, they just shut it down. Which, yeah, that's good for them. It's annoying, but you can't always plan that far in advance for perfect weather. You get averages and you get hope, but for the most part, you're winging it. So I bought this bow, and I thought, just from recent looks, for some reason the Elite limbs stuck in my head. I had Elite stuck in my head. When I looked up the specs, Elite limb, the string on an Elite is 56.5 inches. My string right now is just above 55 inches. So I was confused. I was expecting my actual string to have stretched 1/4 to 1/2 inch. My cables have stretched about 1/4 inch. Both of them they're both the same. Everything's even. my string, let's say it was like 55 something. That's doesn't make any sense. 54 and a half. So, I'm jumping around. So I looked and looked and looked, and I found a bench reference for the pros, or the pro shop at Martin, and it was like a copied PDF of, you know, these scribbles, and I found my bow, the Razor X, with straight limbs, 54 and a half inch string, 44 inch cables. I have 2 control cables and 1 string, dual cam. So I just ordered strings because I was going to order strings. I bought my bow expecting to go from hunting to, you know, just use it for everything between hunting and target. At the time, I was more focused on target, so I wanted a bow that I could just pick up, change the broadheads, hit the woods. And for accuracy, my bow, how I shoot, I am confident. I'm not super great. I'm good. I have been good. I haven't been good. I haven't checked. So the past couple of years, when I moved to out tomorrow, I bought a big old bag target. The guy at work threw it in the backyard, and I thumped arrows at it. I missed a couple. You know, it was more, you know, me. I was shooting it at 35, right around 40 yards. So my point on with no sights used to be 35 yards, and that's with a field point. And in instinctive shooting, it's not instinctive. You're just, it's more traditional. There's really nothing instinctive about archery. You instinctively throw a ball, but you throw a ball based on muscle memory and physics, and you kind of know. And you know, if you're throwing long, precise distances, you have to maybe throw a few to get the feel back. Shooting a open sight bow, it's open sights, but you're using the tip of the arrow as your sight point. Your anchor point's different because, you know, when I was shooting release, my anchor was like right here. My peep sight, you know, I could see everything, and you know, every little bit, you know, you couldn't. I liked it. I killed a couple that way. I shot competition that way just more for fun. Then Uncle Jack talked me into buying his Hoyt ProTech. That was the year that before they came out with the cam and a half. I got the last year with the command cam Hoyt ProTech. That Hoyt ProTech, I beat the hell. I think he $300. I think he got it for free. He shot it for 2 years. Because he shot for on target Leon with give him a bow and a few arrows, and just his sponsor. So where was I going with this? Oh, I bought. Oh, release. Anyway, I'm changing my setup. So I was trying to find when I shoot. I bought this bow 60 pounds max. That's what I was saying. I bought the bow to max out at 60 pounds because going between your limbs are what keeps the kinetic energy. What you bend, like you're shooting a recurve. When you pull back the string, it bends the limbs, which stores the energy, and they want to be straight. So when you shoot, the string straightens, and then the arrow is pushed. So with a compound bow, you have cams that rotate, which allow your string to come back with minimal bend in your limbs, but your limbs still bend. They flex. So you have my brain is everywhere today. I'm excited. Right now I don't need to tell you about all this shit. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, what you were thinking was wrong with your hunting arrows. And the idea that you were going to go between target and hunting without much problem. Shoot a couple broadheads, they fly true, you're good to go in the woods. I mean, technically, in a survival situation, I could pick up any bow and make it work. But to expect my arrows to be effective is pretty. I don't know. That's. I expect a lot. So my arrows right now, the ones that I would take to a competition, weigh somewhere in the 325 grain mark. That's with, and I was thinking I was going too heavy with 100 grain broadheads. And I remember making that decision, going from 125 to 100 grain broadheads because of flight. I wanted, my shot placement is right on. I don't have a problem with my shot placement. Every arrow that I have put through a deer has broken. At the time, I attributed it to just, the first time it happened, I'm like, well, that's just weird. This arrow went through this animal and snapped in half. That's weird. So you have a lot of, when your arrows are balanced like mine are, with, I think I was shooting, I was trying for like 8% front of center, 8 to 9%. That's keeping it balanced and expecting your equipment and everything to be super duper, and which it is, and I'm that smooth. And 300 and we'll just say 350 grain arrow, which is way too light, is what I was pushing at 54 pounds. So this year when I went out to the garage and I put my scale on my bow, I drew it back and it was like 50 pounds. well, that's weird. Let me crank it up. So I cranked the limbs down about a turn and a half, and they bottomed out. So I was close. So I put my scale on it, and it was 52 and a half, or, and then I backed it off. I did it a couple times. I got it to 54 pounds, which is 6 pounds under spec. Measured the tiller was okay. I measured my brace height at 7 1/4, 7 3/8. Brace height is the distance from where you grab the bow, the little where you put pressure on the bow to the edge of the string at rest. A longer brace height allows for more movement when the string lets go. It gives, it does a little bit more of this, whereas a short brace height does this, and it's less forgiving, they say, where when you let go of a string with your fingers, the string does this. It's not a precise let go thing. So shooting fingers introduces its own set of challenges. But my bow, knowing that my string has stretched that much to allow a 5-pound discrepancy, prompted me to change strings. Now, this will be the fourth or fifth set of strings that I put on that bow. Everybody says, "Oh, you change your strings once a year." You probably should. Even when I was shooting competition, I was shooting, let's see, 40 plus 50, 100. I was shooting maybe 500 arrows a week, maybe more. Depending on, when hunting season was starting to ramp up, I was shooting competition, and I would go to the range. Some of the wildlife areas around me have archery parks, and they have targets set up in the woods. You have, they're fixed targets. They're not 3D, but you go out and there's not. You can make them to where they're like 30 yards, but I don't think there's anything more than. I don't think there's anything more than like 30, 35 yards. If you're out there alone, you can get a little creative, but if there's a lot of people, you got to kind of, keep track of everybody. But I was shooting on average 400 to 500 arrows a week. That's with competitions. And so 52, 2,000. That's a lot of arrows. That's several shots through a bow. That's a lot of stress. And back then, pre-stretched strings really wasn't the thing. So you buy your strings. Say I need a 55-inch string, 54.5-inch string. It's going to come to me at about 55 and 3/8 with the idea that it is going to stretch about an 1/8 inch or so, maybe a 1/2 inch, or 1/8 to a 1/4 inch is normal wear stretch. So you put it on your bow, you shoot. You just have to go out in the back and shoot 100 arrows, and then you check everything. You shoot another couple hundred arrows, then you check it again, and you fine tune it by twisting your string. placing it, getting everything tuned in, everything timed right, then that should be it. That your string has stretched to its working stretch. So then you shoot thousands of arrows through it in a year. Come next year, when you start picking up your bow again, thinking, or you put your bow away at the end of archery season, you walk away from it, is about the time you're thinking about turkey season coming up. Turkey season and fishing, you're tired of being cold. And at that time, I wanted to shoot the indoor world championship indoor archery. So I was, as soon as hunting season was over, I took 2-3 weeks to do whatever. You know, we were dog training. I was busy. Then I would start preparing again for a world championship in March, I think it was. Usually was. It was Columbus, Ohio. But I never really could afford the trip, and it just never worked out. So Emery, that's his name, Emery. Never mind. So I would start shooting again, and right around April, you know, there's a couple winter shoots. I remember being out there in Colder Bug down at Cantuck. Weird ass place, Cantuck's. It's like on the side. It's like in this valley. It's this outdoors club, and then you got these fucking ridges you gotta climb. They would shoot us up there. God damn. It was terrible. A workout. I remember it was colder than shit. They didn't take us up in the woods. They took us down in the back field, slopping through shit. And then I got into shooting. You know, not only was I shooting on the weekends, those were Sunday shoots. Our local touring league. And then I started shooting Thursday nights at a bar that had, you know, this little chunk of woods behind the bar, and they'd set up 8 to 10 targets. Everybody would put in $10. Then, you know, the winners would get what it was fun. It was more for me to expand my, you know, hanging out with people, different people, and shooting. I got my first Robin Hood there at their practice range. And it was definitely, it was at 25, 30 yards. It actually stuck on carbon arrow. I was shooting 65 grain glue in tips, or 85 grain. Everything, my entire tip was maybe 85 grains. My arrows, I think I cut them down to 26.5 inches. I have a 26-inch draw. I draw to here. I could probably do here, but that rolls my shoulder back a little too far. But, you know, my sweet spot for fingers is here. I could probably get a release and pull back a little bit more. I could probably get back to like 28-inch draw if I use the reverse release, which, yeah, that gives me a little, because you don't pull straight back, you roll your shoulder blade. And that's even after shooting for years and years, decades. I forget that. I forget back tension. You're not supposed to feel it here. You're supposed to feel it right in, you know, put your arm arm up like that, and then roll back, you'll feel your scapula kind of dig in, that muscle just kind of roll up into it. That's where it is. That's your back tension. And it's not much. Even in fingers, you don't want to let go. You want to pull away from the string. Because letting go offers more of a jerk, because it's like your brain thinks you're throwing the arrow, so you're letting some of that energy out when you let it go. So when you're pulling it back, you're getting every bit out of it. And with fingers, you have inconsistencies with different way you grip, and I shoot 3 under with emphasis on my middle finger, so I could shoot 3 under and probably drop my ring finger. I have a couple times, but it's just resting on there for peace of mind, for control, for oh my God, for my positioning. So I am going to almost, I'm not going to quite double my arrow weight. That would be 600 grain. I'm expecting to go between 55 and 60 pounds. If I get 60 pounds and a good flight, I might stay at 60 pounds, but I'm going to shoot for like 58. My bow with the arrows of 325 grain arrows. God damn, 325 grain arrow at 54 pounds was shooting at, I think the fastest I got with that setup on that bow was 270 feet per second. With fingers is good. That's really good. I would say I was consistently shooting 240, 250 feet per second. Increasing my arrow weight by 200 grains is probably going to slow my arrow down to 200 feet per second. I think you could probably, that's probably just a little bit faster than you could throw a frisbee. And I didn't have this idea in the beginning when I first started, wanting to get back into this. I have all the knowledge, I have the base knowledge, and I've been trying to rethink and redo my, those thoughts. I'm going to set up my recurve. I have a 48-inch, 50-pound at 28-inch Ben Pearson. It's a 50-48. The lamination is coming off of it. I drew it the other day. I put the new string, or the old string, on it, and that string I have not shot more than, if I have shot that thing more than 500 times, that bowstring is not, it may be dry rot, I got wax on it, but I am going to, I'll probably get a new string. I need to find out how long this one is and just have somebody make me one, just a Flemish string, recurve string. Doesn't have to be super special. I think I can get them for like 12 bucks. I can get a recurve string for 12 bucks. I have metal knocks on it just because that's what I said at the time. So my knock point, anchor. That's what your anchor. The position where you put your arrow every time is your anchor point. Jesus. So my knock point on my string has always been, since I started shooting fingers, has always been dental floss. I take dental floss, waxed dental floss, and tie it, and just wrap the shit out of it on the string, get my position, wrap it, and that's it. Set it. A little oval bit of waxed string on your string is the anchor point. It doesn't slip, it doesn't move. It wears a little bit after, 500 arrows or so, you have to retie it. But honestly, you do it enough, you set your arrow on there, and the witness marks on it are there. You just do it. Sometimes you have to wrap a little extra if you wrap it wrong, and that keeps your arrow it keeps it from pinching or pushing or moving. It's simple, very simple. So for whatever reason, I put a brass knock on my recurve. Why'd I do that? I don't know. Everybody says put an arrow or put a knock above and below. Yeah, for some situations. If I was shooting a res or a release, I didn't put a D-loop on until after I started shooting my Mathews, which was my third compound bow. You put a release, a D string on, that changes your, if I was to shoot from the string, I could pull back a little bit more. You put a D loop on, that puts me back at my 26-inch draw. But the D loop allows the string to be pulled back at the arrow point, at the center of the string, which theoretically should be the center of the bow. The bow should be centered. Everything should be centered. You want everything to come off center, because you imagine a string, pulled back. It's a triangle. You got the the bow, whatever. You let go of it, and one gets there before the other. So you're doing this with the string. So your arrow is. So that's why you start with your tiller. You find your bows. You find your bow specs. You know exactly what the specs are on your bow. You get it there. You shoot it. Do a little tinkering. Find out what your bow likes. Every bow is a little bit different for each shooter. So my bow, I want to say it was right at 42 inches. Axle to axle. The tiller, they say with fingers you want to do God, what was it? It was like an eighth of an inch top cam faster, or bottom cam an eighth of an inch faster, because the idea is you have your fingers pulling back on the string as well, and you have pulled the bottom portion of the string back more, so you need that to compensate to get it back to straight at the same time. So it's timing. And I honestly can't remember if my bow, I think my bow is perfect. No, it's the timing. Pretty sure the timing is even on my cams, because they roll in and they where they hit, where the arrow, where the energy begins to go from the string to the arrow more, and that where it releases it. So it tries to release, at that valley where it goes, but honestly, just the physics, the act of it stopping, but it's not really stopping. It does stop there and the arrow begins to pull away from it, but if you watch it, if you can imagine it in slow motion, you're pushing, it's like you're throwing a ball, your hand, all that energy comes down and it's right here, so you're throwing, but once you let go of the ball, your hand is still going, and you're following it, but then it goes away, so then it's allowed to do this. Energy is lost. It's all about energy transfer. You start thinking about it physically. So my target weight for my arrows is going to be 525 grains. Close to 200 grains heavier. I am going with a heavier arrow. The arrows that I've shot since they were born is the ICS Hunters. I started shooting the ICS, the Beeman ICS, and ICS stands for Internal Component System. At least I think it does. Which is basically the internal diameter of each ICS is the same universally. Eventually, for the most part, I don't know if it's an actual industry standard, but it's kind of a thing. All carbon arrows have the same internal diameter. That's where they start. They start with 0.244 something. It's like, I want to say it's 6 millimeters. It's very close. So pretty sure it's 6 millimeters. Anyway, they're basically all the same. So you can pull nocks off of in Easton, and you can put them in a ICS and ICS. You can pull the nocks off of a 5070 gold tip from Walmart onto my arrows. I can pull my nocks out and I can put them in a Black Eagle. That is not to say not all nocks are created equal, though. You have different lengths, you have different throats, you have different profiles, different weights. You have weighted nocks, you have Illuminox. And an Illuminox, I thought they would be heavy as shit, like 50 grain with battery and all that. They're like 25 grain. Now you can get knock posts, which I may consider if I get my front of center. I don't know. I'm entertaining the idea of Illuminox. It's not. I don't see putting myself in a position where I need an Illuminox, like shooting at night, because it's whatever. The intent is the arrow to pass through the animal. So if I know where I'm shooting, I know where I have shot, I know where I was sitting, I know where the animal was, I know where the hole in the animal was, I know where my arrow is going to be. So I find my arrow and then go looking. I mean, if I shoot at last light, I'm gonna find the animal. I don't need it for that. I might do it because, one, they're a little heavier and they're fun. They look neat. I don't think they take away from anything. I used to think they did, because I was shooting such a balanced arrow. If I'm shooting like 18% front of center, because that's what my calculations say my arrows are going to be, is 18 front of center. 18%. So if I'm shooting 18% front of center and I add an extra 15 grains worth of Illuminox, And that makes me 17.8% front of center. I am not bugging about that. If I am above 16, 15% front of center, I'm a happy motherfucker. As long as those arrows fly. If I can get above 10%, I am doubling my tip weight. I'm going to be shooting 50 grain plus 175 grain. I'm shooting oh my God, I'm shooting 225. I'm shooting a 225 grain front. The arrows that God damn it, back on this. I went from a 500 spine because I was shooting, that was putting me right at, and that was more for weight because I was shooting these fucking toothpicks. I was shooting these goddamn McDonald's straws. Let's see, 54, whatever 54 times 5.5 is. Oh my God, I was shooting under 300 grains. I think my arrows were like 285 grains for competition. Anything less than that's like basically dry firing your bow. You have to have that oomph to make everything. Yeah, it's a violent act, but you want to minimize that because if you dry fire a bow, all that energy has to go somewhere, so it overextends your cams, and they roll back, and it puts too much on your cables, and you get fucking limbs break. I've seen people break limbs. I've heard people break cables, or I've seen it. One guy, he had just cranked everything down. He was a fucking rock star. Daredevil rock star, and he just got this PSE. I think he was shooting 75 pounds. And he was out at the or we had shot the course, and he got done with it, like the last couple targets. He's like, man, I want a little bit more out of it. So he cranked his limbs down, and you just hear he cranked them fuckers down. He shot a couple times, and it was just like, bam! Ah! It was like fucking kicking a 5-gallon bucket. It was not quiet. And then he said, I'm gonna go to the range. He went to the practice range, and we were shooting. He was, he had a fucking 5-gallon bucket of arrows on his hip. So he was flinging arrows, and he did, what did he do? I don't think he changed. I don't think he cranked anything down. I think he did something. It was like just one more. This is it. This is it. And he let that fucker go. And the cam, or the bottom limb, is it the bottom limb? Yeah, the bottom limb broke off, came around, it snapped, came around, and then flapped him right in the face. That's a lot of energy. I mean, I've seen horror stories. People breaking arrows as soon as you let go of them, they break. That's what I always was, a little leery about. I have, this carbon arrow running past my arm at 5,000 miles an hour. If I don't have the proper weight, if I don't have the proper balance in my arrow and the spine of my arrow, now when I refer to spine, it means the stiffness of your arrow. The lower the number, the lower the deflection from a 0 point. measure spine by, I can't remember the exact formula, but there's a you put this much pressure at this position of the arrow, and if it deflects X, that is your spine. So generally, a heavier spined arrow is a lower number, which means the deflection is lower. I think I was shooting 500s, which I'm pretty sure means at 10 pounds with the spread of whatever, and then you push down, it deflects 5 or a half an inch. Or maybe it's measured in millimeters. I can't remember. I would imagine millimeters. I think it's inches. I think it's half inch, 0.5, like kind of calibers. So the arrows I'm going to, instead of a 340, I'm going with a 300, only because I'm going to be putting so much weight out front. And growing up, everybody said 16%. Chuck Adams always said, you need a heavy arrow, 16%. And he was shooting, he killed elephants. Well, he killed an elephant. And he did so just because he wanted, I think somebody paid, it was a challenge, or he was trying to figure it out. And he was, I think that bow, he was shooting like an 1100 grain arrow, and he was shooting 110 pounds. Ugh. He was big on the aluminum arrows, which they work. Honestly, I think my old XX75s flew better than any well, not the ICS Hunter. That's kind of like my brand, but I don't know if it's because they were just the sound, the feel of an aluminum arrow. I like the aluminum XX25 and the XX75s. Holy fuck, they're the same goddamn price as a fucking set of mid-range carbons. I'm getting the 300 spine ICS Hunters. I'm putting 2-inch blazers because I know the blazers work well. The blazers do what I need them to do with fingers, which when they first came out, I was like, oh, these little tiny veins, what the hell are you gonna do with those? They look silly. They perform. When I was on the mountain, my second year at Snowshoe was when the fast flight, quick flight, quick spin flight, I don't know, they just put these little knobs on the lobe of the vein, and they were supposed to spin your arrow X% faster and whatever. If you're shooting a shitty arrow, if you're making shitty shots, you don't need your arrows to spin to compensate for that. You need to start shooting better. You should be able to shoot without vanes. You should be able to kill anything bare shafted. You should be able, your arrows should come off of that bow and go where you want them to go without any assistance, any flying assistance. Now, broadheads become a wing of their own. So you could take, everything transfers or translates to energy. You give up energy when you're spending all your time concentrating on spinning your arrow. By the time it gets to where it's going, it doesn't have a lot of ass behind it. And that's why you want a heavier arrow. You want a heavier arrow with heavy front of center. Shot placement was my thing. I would shoot for shot placement. I knew I could pinwheel a deer at whatever situation. Zero questions about it. I knew I was going through the shoulder blade, and I was going to kill the deer with my setup. With my 300 grain arrow was going to kill a deer, which it did. It killed every one it went in, it killed. But every one it went in, it broke. And I now know why. My arrows were too light, even though I was getting the more durable ICS Hunters. The 500 grain arrows, when you hit a target, you see the back of your arrow go, that's energy. On a target's fine. Even if you're getting 6-8 inches of penetration into a target. Because your arrow is flibbity flobbity, your spine is not heavy or stiff. You're doing that. You translate that into going through a deer. A deer's, you got to shoot. Basically, you got to shoot through a 5-gallon bucket. If you take a 5-gallon bucket, put it on a Lazy Susan, and spin it, and then shoot it, chances are you're not going through that bucket. If you set it up and you shoot static, you might poke out the other side. But you're not going to if it's moving. So with the back of your arrow flopping around like that, you have to go through that hole, the initial hole, and the arrow's doing this. So what's that doing? That's slowing your arrow down. If you're also moving that bucket, you're taking that energy and you're transferring more energy. So it's not going to, that could go, and it's going to go, and it's going to, kind of do a little flanky danky. That's what happens inside of a deer. When you shoot, I have never seen an animal let you just put an arrow through it and just, like, the fuck was that? They move. As soon as they hear, it's not because they feel it, they hear you they hear your thoughts as soon as you let that arrow go. They hear you screaming inside your head, yippee, if anything else. Right before you let go of that arrow, you're, oh fuck, this is really happening, this is really happening. Yay! Thump. So the deer seem to know when that's coming, and they jump your shot. And 9 times out of 10, they squat down. And the reason why they squat down, they're not jumping your arrow. They're not trying to get away from what's coming. They ain't got fuck all knowing what's coming. What they're doing is they're loading their muscles and springing away. When you jump, what do? You squat. If you hear something, what do? Oh. Because the next action is for you to run away. So So that's why they jump your string. They're not, an animal will, I mean, I'm sure they could probably jump up, just, but they need that, you know, it's physics. They can't not. Like a flea where they load their springs and just, but even shooting down, you're shooting at a 45-degree angle. You're putting the arrow this close to the spine, in between the spine and the shoulder blade, depending on your, you know, where you are. You want to shoot through. Whatever you do, you're aiming for the heart. Now, when you're shooting straight broadside, whatever, you're cutting the business part of the lungs. You want the front end of the lungs. That's where most of the air, that's where most of the work is done. So you want to penetrate, you want to damage that lung so it collapses, so the animal doesn't go far. You don't want blood trails. You want to see it fall within 20, 30 yards. Now, you can completely remove the guts out of a deer. If you could do that in a split second, then it'll still run 100 yards, or it could run 100 yards without any innards. It's just muscle memory and, you know, pure adrenaline, and everything's going. But if they can't get oxygen to those muscles give up. So you shut off the air supply, you shut off the lungs, they're done. Even if you put it through the heart, that animal is dead running. And it sounds terrible. It sounds horrible watching an animal run through the woods knowing it doesn't know. It doesn't feel, it's just like, oh fuck, what's going on? And then it just expires, and then you get hamburgers. So I might upload this one. It's dumb. I mean, this is why I haven't done it. It's just me talking. Partially because it helps kill the time for my my hour drive to work. Rain and fucking traffic. It's Friday. Holy shit! It's August 15th. I have a tattoo appointment tomorrow to see Amanda, and we're gonna get Ahsoka kind of tidied up, do Ahsoka's makeup. And yesterday I scratched her arm, so I got some shit to do. Tomorrow I have a bunch of my motorcycle family in from out of town down here. They're about 20 minutes south of here. I'm not working tomorrow, so if the weather's okay and I'm not too beat up from hanging out with Amanda, I'm going to find out where they are in their riding tomorrow and go meet up with them. Go for a ride a little bit, just kind of enjoy myself a little bit. I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to really get back to what I enjoy doing for me. That's something I haven't done in a long time. I've taken things out for myself, and I've done things that I think I wanted at the time, and you know, it's, but this is different. This is me. This is my midlife crisis, I guess. Not really. I mean, I know I only have a couple years left to be able to enjoy these things. So I don't want to sit back and go, you know, I should have done it when I've done that for the past 15 years. After Paula died, I hit it hard in spurts. And when I say I hit it hard, I would go hunting for like 3 or 4 weeks. That's all I would do. I just concentrate on that. I just go, and that's all I was doing. And I was killing deer, I was killing squirrel, I was making but I was just going through the routine of doing it. I wasn't really, I don't say advancing. I was, you think of it as always learning something new, and I always, I did learn something new, but this is what I have, this is what I'm doing, and it was more out of habit and necessity for what I thought I needed to do. But now this is me. I have the need to do it for me, and with that I have opportunity to learn more, and it's almost like upgrading the experience. I have the opportunity to try new things. I'm not just putting together, it's exciting, it's fun, and the thing is not that I know it's going to work. That's the thing. I'm not saying, well, I hope I put this together and this works. No, I know it's going to work. It can't not work. So that's exciting. And I've gone from stressing over the past several months to being anxious about things coming up, and I don't feel a difference. I don't know if there's a good anxiety, a good anxious feeling, which is what I have. I have a progressive anxious feeling. I know I still have lots of work to do at the house, but I have a goal. I have a stopping point, and it's extremely obtainable. So I'm going to start that, and I keep telling me I'm going to start that this week. I'm not. I have this current, I need to get this out of my system, and then I can move to that. I'm done martyring myself in misery just because I think I have to accomplish something. And I mean, I do need to get it. It's the house needs to be painted and stuff, but right now the parts that need it, they're not, it needs to be for winter, but it's, I don't want to say mostly aesthetic, which I still have a lot to do. But I know that I will get it done. It's not like I'm convincing myself that, oh, I just put it off, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, it's hunting season. I can't do any painting this week, honey. That's on me. I need to do that, and I only have a couple weeks to do it, and rain doesn't help. Money is, with my son going back to college, Anthony moving out, the missus finally getting disability and everything squared away. Our insurance we're getting to the point where we can just do instead of having to plan ahead for doing, because we were using my income for the longest time, and it's and supporting a household full of with 5 people over a couple months is kind of stressful. So the kids, they pitched in, but it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't enough. We didn't ask for it because we didn't need it. When we needed a little bit of help for groceries and stuff, because we bought months worth of groceries at a time, and it was very taxing. So it's just the nature of it. Now we're planning on a camper. I want to get a camper before, I really want to push for it to get it before gun season. But I want to use it before, I don't know, there's so much to do. So much involved with all this, and I want to do all the fun things. I want to enjoy things. That's what I plan on doing. But not at any cost. So, alright. I gotta get ready for work. I got I got 15 minutes. Sit here and fuck off. So, fuck off. I got shit to do.